Meteorologist Mark Molnar. I want to thank you for joining me for this edition of Weather Eastern. This is a special winter weather coverage. I'm going to go over model talk here concerning the models of the weekend big winter storm along the East Coast. We'll get into which areas I think could be the target. Right now it's too early to forecast exact snowfall totals and where they're at, but we'll break it down for you here, see which areas stand the greatest risk, and we'll see what the models are doing in the model trends. And then probably towards Thursday, I'll get into a very detailed video forecast. So we'll go back to our older format and more in-depth coverage. But for right now, let's take a look at what the models are doing, and I'll show you the areas that I think have the greatest risk. As always, don't forget to question or comment down below. I love to read those and respond to those, and also timestamps down below in the description if you wish to skip ahead. Let's get into it. All right, we're going to start off with my winter storm confidence map. This is going to take into account the model trends that we've seen over the last 48 to 72 hours here. So if you're in the green zone, at this point of the game, there's still a lot of uncertainty. You do have this chance of most likely, if the storm were to occur based on today's model runs, you'd probably be in the advisory criteria. But at this point of the game, a lot can change. Eastern Pennsylvania, eastern upstate New York, eastern Quebec, parts of central and eastern Virginia and Maryland here into North Carolina. Now, if you're in the yellow zone, this is the zone I want you to really focus on here, because this is where totals have a better chance of reaching 6 inches or greater here, if today's model runs and the past couple days model runs verify. So if you're into like northeastern North Carolina, eastern, southeastern Virginia, Delmarva, up to parts of New Jersey, the lower Hudson Valley, parts of Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, these areas stand a better chance. Now, if you're in the orange zones, I have you in the moderate already. This is eastern Maine, eastern New Hampshire, eastern Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, eastern New Jersey, Long Island, Delmarva, into parts of southeastern Virginia here, and extreme northeastern North Carolina. These areas I really want you to focus on, because based on these model runs, you stand a much higher risk of seeing maybe even beyond a foot. So let's break the models down here for you. I'll show you what I mean. All right, European model here, high resolution European model run. Take a look at this. We're going to start off. European model has been, if you notice, has been inching westward here. So we're starting to get some of the Catskills, the Poconos region in here, 6 to 8 inches, 9 inches, Albany right around 9, Concord 15 inches according to the Euro, anywhere from 1 to 2 feet in this range, Boston about 15. Look at this over toward just west of Cape Cod, showing more mixing here as warm air gets drawn in on Cape Cod. The GFS is a lot different than this on Cape Cod. I'll show you that next here. But 29 inches, 30 inches right around eastern Rhode Island and southeastern Massachusetts here. That's pretty impressive. 14 to 16 inches out here on Long Island. Oh, wow, look at this. 30 inches, 29, 30 inches right around Delmarva border here and into South Jersey as well. Atlantic City showing up around 20 inches. New York City right around 16, 17 inches here. And that's going to continue south. I'll show you that on the Mid-Atlantic run here as well. A sharp cutoff here, places like Binghamton right around 3 inches, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton 5 to 7 inches. So that has been upped a little bit from the previous Euro trends the past couple days. Harrisburg clocking in at about 4 inches. So this is the latest European model here. So if we go over to the GFS, we'll start in the Mid-Atlantic for the GFS, because they're showing some back building here, even some eastern Tennessee mountains here, even some snow down into South Carolina according to the GFS. We'll see if that verifies, 2, 3 inches maybe. Raleigh-Durham area right around 7, 8 inches up to Norfolk, and Virginia Beach area 8 to 12 inches according to the GFS. Delmarva, it is significantly less than the European model. Even Philadelphia at 3 inches. Euro had you much higher, 7 or 8 inches right around Atlantic City. Only about 5 to 6 inches here in New York City. And look at this, up towards north central Pennsylvania, even Wilkes-Barre, Scranton right around 1 inch. In Binghamton, barely a half an inch. So if we get into the northeast here, we'll clock this in. Look at that. Boston showing up as one of the big city winners, 18 inches according to the GFS. And look at this, Cape Cod, much more snowfall to be had here on the GFS, as it shows the colder air really getting entrenched, snow mixing going on, and eastern Maine as well, 12 to 18 inches. Albany not showing up too much here as well on the GFS. So that is what we got going on for that. Let's take a look at the Canadian model here for the Northeast. And wow, it looks almost identical to the GFS. That is pretty remarkable. So we can't get into the mesoscale models just yet because they only go out 60 hours. But look at that, about 16 inches. Boston, Atlantic City, about a foot. Delmarva, a little bit more than the GFS, less than the Euro, of course. So the Euro's really the outlier so far here. And then if we go into, let's go down into the Mid-Atlantic for both. Let's see here. So if we go back, actually, let's just do the Canadian model run there. And there it is. It kind of doesn't bring it as far to the southwest here into North Carolina and South Carolina as the GFS. So we'll have to see if that GFS is really onto something or what's going on with that. So if we can get right now, I just wanted to show you the Canadian model really quick in the Northeast too. It's very similar to the GFS. Snow starts breaking out on Friday, late afternoon, early evening here across Virginia, West Virginia. We put this into motion. This is early morning as the sun's rising. Heavy snow in the same areas as the GFS here, and we get towards noon hour into the Northeast here, and this is where we get into some of the heavier snows developing from I-80 or I-95 on eastward here as this intense low. Let's see how 952 millibar, same as the GFS. This is interesting. We have two of the major models agreeing with each other here in almost the exact same placement. This is pretty remarkable here. All right, so let's take a look at the Euro for the Mid-Atlantic here. Let's actually get back to the winter weather snowfall totals here. So we put this into motion really quick here. Take a look at this. I wanted to show you the southwestern component here, and you can see it's much different from the GFS because the GFS had these snowfall totals 2 to 4 inches and down to parts of South Carolina, North Carolina, and had almost a half a foot here for Raleigh, Durham. And look at this. We don't get into the heavier totals until we get into parts of extreme northeastern North Carolina here, extreme eastern Virginia here, and eastern Maryland and up into Delmarva. And there's some of those totals, 30 inches for eastern Delaware. That's pretty remarkable. And you can see there's a high uncertainty that I have in the green area here into parts of eastern Pennsylvania, upstate New York, because of the Euro versus the GFS and the Canadian model. So much more different from each other. So there you have it. The Euro doesn't develop this into a bomb as fast as the GFS and the Canadian. All right, so let's take a look at the surface map, starting off with the high-resolution Euro here. And we put this into motion. You don't have a lot happening here. You have high pressure dominating much of the eastern two-thirds of the United States here. And by this point of time on later Wednesday into early Thursday, high pressure is really in control. But we start to see this trough digging, and this is going to be the key. And we start to have pressure falls here off the coast of Florida. So what's going to happen with this? You can see we have that disturbance in the Gulf of Mexico, and we have another disturbance here off the Florida coast. We have the trough digging here across Texas. So we put this further into motion, and you start to really see this take hold here, because this big trough starting to dig behind this main level of energy in the eastern Gulf. We have showers and thunderstorms developing. Some of these could be pretty strong as they approach Florida here. But there's where the pressure falls start. We have a 1,004 millibar low. And look at this. By this point, we already have a lot of light to moderate snow breaking out here across parts of the Appalachians, eastern Ohio Valley, into parts of Pennsylvania. And this is by the mid to late afternoon on Friday. So we put this into motion. You can really start to see this because look at 989 millibars. This is really late Friday night into early Saturday morning here before sunrise. Look at this. This is a trough, and you can see it's trying to become negatively tilted here. Right now it's pretty much neutral, but this is a pretty decent trough here developing this system. High pressures. We have dual high pressures to the north, one over eastern Canada, one over the Midwest. So this is going to limit its progress to the northwest. I don't think the Euro will bring this much further west. I could be mistaking on that, but given the placement of these high pressure systems, it's pretty doubtful this will head that much further west. But at this point, 983 millibars as the sun's rising here over the northeast, 978. And at this point, snowfall kind of cutting off here across the southeast. There's that trough really digging in here, and look at that, 974 millibar low. This is by the time of early afternoon across the northeast. And look at that expansion of snow westward, even the I-81 corridor. Let's get into the northeast. We'll zoom in on this with the high-resolution Euro. Let's put this into motion. This is about the time, Friday evening. Snow's breaking out, even light snow as far north as Binghamton, Wilkes-Barre, Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, and down into parts of West Virginia and Virginia here. So look at this. We start to get heavier snow breaking out around eastern Virginia, Delmarva, parts of New Jersey. This is just around midnight, or just before midnight here, Friday night, into early Saturday morning. Now you see the mix line according to the Euro. It's a bit further west than it is on the GFS, and we have heavier snows breaking out around Delmarva, and starting to get moderate here around New York City and Boston by the time of sunrise here. So we put this into motion. Look at this. Pretty intense around the I-95 corridor. Even some light snows breaking out across parts like Binghamton, Harrisburg, Albany, and up into parts of Maine by this time. So starting to get mixing here. 974 millibar low. That's going to bring in some warm air at mid-levels. And you probably change over to heavy sleet and probably heavy freezing rain here according to the Euro right out on Cape Cod. New York City continuing with the heavy snow. Look at this. Down and through parts of New Jersey. And Delmarva, heavy snow as well. So here we go. 974 millibar low. Then we get to 973 millibar low. This is come right around noon, 1 p.m. on Saturday. Look at this. Heavy snow all along the I-95 corridor here. Snowfall's continuing, not making too much headway beyond west of Interstate 81. But look at this. New Jersey, Delmarva, Long Island, Massachusetts, these areas into southern Maine here. This is going to be the bullseye according to the Euro. And look at this. We start to have the low pressure retrograde to the west here, 970 millibar low. If this verifies, there could be hurricane force winds here in eastern Massachusetts, Rhode Island, eastern Long Island as well, Cape Cod. These areas could be inundated with a lot of storm surge as well. This is quite a bomb here in north and west, and this snowfall band could be pretty intense, even further inland here, the lower Hudson Valley, New York City, Atlantic City, into parts of central Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Maine. Look at this. And then we start to get into a 967 millibar low here, continuing to strengthen. We still have snow. This is by late Saturday night here into early Sunday morning. You see this doesn't move much, 967 millibar, so we continue to get buffeted here by strong winds. Definitely could see blizzard conditions here according to the Euro as this low pressure slowly pulls away during the day on Sunday. All right, so the GFS model, let's look at nationally here what it has going on with the in respect here to the Euro and the Canadian. There's that area of low pressure disturbance across eastern Texas, showers and thunderstorms. This is earlier Friday. And look at this. We start to have low pressure form pretty early here off the southeast coast. Trough digging across the eastern part of North America here. There's those two high pressure systems, the same as it was on the Euro. And we have a lot of storminess here in the Gulf of Mexico that's going to entrain into this system according to the GFS. Look at that. Snowfall breaking out well north of the system, much quicker than even the other two models were, the other two major models, the Canadian and the Euro. And look at this, 996 millibars. It's not as strong by this point as the two other models, but you see some heavy snow developing here along the East Coast, and even snow further inland here across parts of North Carolina. So let's zoom in onto the Mid-Atlantic at this point of the game. So this is where things are really taking shape here. So you put this into motion, and you have all of this happening here off the southeast. Oh, I'm a fucking idiot. All right, taking a look at the GFS nationally here. Let's see. Let's put this into motion. High pressure pretty much dominating through Wednesday and Thursday. We start to see troughiness developing here across the northern plains and the disturbances, eastern Texas and off the east coast of Florida. So we put this into motion. Cold high across the northeast. This is later Thursday. Disturbance is still there, and we start to get some of that troughiness kicking in from the southern plains here into eastern Texas. And look at this. By Friday, we got some storminess really starting to develop in the western Gulf. Look at that, closing off the low even quicker than the other two models here on the GFS. And we put this further into motion. Low pressure really forming. Look at this. The snow, the expanse of snow is much more expansive at this point of the game on Friday afternoon and Friday evening as this low pressure takes over. Energy and moisture, tropical moisture flowing freely into this area of low pressure. And let me back that up one frame. Look at that, 996 millibar low. Some pretty intense snows according to the GFS in the interior parts of North Carolina and much of Virginia into Delmarva. And look at that, double barrel cold high to the north. They look like they're in the same exact place as they were on the Euro. Let's zoom into the mid-Atlantic. Let's get it at that right point of the storm. Here we go. Back it up. 989 millibars. Look at that intense snow there in north central North Carolina and Virginia. And getting into the sunrise, look at that. I-95 corridor on eastward is really socked in. We're not getting any snows according to the GFS up here in Binghamton, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Albany, even by this point. But from I-95 on eastward, really intensifying the snowfall bands. 1 to 2, maybe 3 inches an hour as 982 millibars takes over. Let's zoom in. We still have snow, according to the GFS, by this point on early Saturday afternoon, so that is pretty remarkable. And we're going to get into the northeast here. Let's zoom in over here. So look at this. This is pretty intense, and there's the 982 millibar low. Here we start to get into late afternoon, 978. Look at these intense snowfall accumulations in the fuchsia here. This is pretty intense snowfall here. Probably more than 1 to 3 inches an hour here. Places like Nantucket, Cape Cod, eastern parts of Long Island, southeastern Massachusetts. And look at that, 975 millibars. GFS is really inundating parts of eastern Massachusetts with heavy snowfall. Starting to mix here around Nantucket, so maybe enough warm air at mid-level starting to get in, but never really fully changes it over to rain like the Euro does into Cape Cod here. So heavy snows continuing into Saturday evening here, 974 millibar low. That is still pretty intense here on the GFS and eastern, really smacking eastern Maine here with heavy snow totals as well. Right, so let me show you the upper air pattern. We'll end it with the upper air across, for this forecast segment, across the eastern part of North America. Look at this. We're starting off with Tuesday's outlook. We have that major ridging going on up here in Alaska, parts of the Yukon, and the U.S. East Coast. And see that troughiness here? Look at that stacking up. Almost a little bit of, not quite blocking because it's supposed to be a little bit further to the northwest here to see blocking. But look at that. We headed into Thursday. And we start to get even some ridging along the northeast coast. That's a little bit, it would make you think the temperatures are warming up, but not really. And look at that. There's that trough. That's the key we were looking for early Friday, midday Friday. Look at this. This trough really starts to get stacked up here. And look at how it digs into the southeast. This is what you really want to see for an East Coast snowstorm forming on the east side of this. And all this energy coming out of the Gulf of Mexico and off the southeast coast of Florida. This is going to be pretty intense. Look at this. And at the same time this is happening, we have ridging going on to the northeast and ridging out west as well. So this is pretty intense. Look at this system. This is going to be, if this verifies, this will be one for the record books here. And you can see how it propagates very slowly. And look at this is what I wanted to show you. Look at this blocking ridge to the northeast here. This is intense. This is crazy. This is what's going to give you a slower moving storm. It really can't exit to the northeast very well. Let me show you what it tries to do. Very slowly moves to the northeast, and we're still stuck with troughiness by Monday with scattered snow showers across much of the northeast. Now let's get into the GFS. We'll see what the GFS is showing here. Back it up. Throughout the week, you can see very, very similar. It's interesting that it's very similar to the Euro because watch how the solution plays out here. Still have that trough developing across the Mississippi River Valley. This is by about a little bit later Friday. So we have major ridging out west, blocking going on in northeastern North America here. So we put this into motion. Look at this intense area of troughiness here. Lower pressure height anomalies. It's east of this is where you start to see those pressure falls and low pressure forming. This is about sunrise on Saturday morning. Look at this, blocking continuing to the northeast. You see the orientation here of the trough. It seems to be a little bit further east than it was on the Euro, hence why the GFS has this system affecting a more easterly real estate than the Euro, which is further west. And it's going to be interesting to see which one of these model solutions wins out. It's very subtle, though. It's very hard to notice this because the placement, this looks almost identical to the Euro, but it's off by about 120 to 150 miles. And that makes all the difference in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic on where you'll see those highest snowfall totals. So that's why it's really hard to get into exact snowfall totals this far out. It's going to be a real close call and a big cutoff to the northwest. And you can see, look at that blocking continues into Sunday here. And Monday, it really has a hard time kicking this area of low pressure out to the northeast. And that's going to conclude this segment. I am going to have a much more detailed forecast if that's what you're looking for, most likely on Thursday video update, and I'll probably release a first snowfall map either Wednesday or Thursday as well. So that should be interesting. As always, don't forget, I'm going to have little weather micro updates on my social media pages as well. I'll post them here on the posting section of my YouTube channel as well, in the community section, but also Facebook at MeteoMark, also at Weather Northeastern, Twitter at Weather Eastern, and also MeteoMark.com and WeatherNortheastern.com.